Yeah, so I think I'm gonna keep the lecturing short this time. We're just gonna go through like code organization and a couple of bonus topics. Um, so basically this is just like use functions, use uh what was it called? Files. Like make sure you use files as well, like import, classes from other files so that we don't have to like as mentors when we're marking, we don't have to scroll through like 10 different classes at the top. If you need code for some reason from the previous session, like if you're yeah, by the way, it's only the main reason is like if you want to experiment with the new code, then you can just use this code. Otherwise, for your game, like if you want, like I said, you could use the code from the previous sessions, but I would say it's not the most bug free. So just keep that in mind if you're gonna use this code for your game. I assume most of you would have already started on the game, so you can kind of disregard this. But if you want to experiment like with like follow along with the stuff, then the best way is like if you just copy this code. Oops. Um yeah, so kind of went over this before, so um I think one thing is like in terms of like when to create a function or not, it's generally I think you sort of get a feel for it as you like look at more examples, like especially if you watch like tutorials online. But I would say if you're gonna like use something, more than once, or you just don't want it to clutter, it's part of it's like personal preference. Like if you don't want it to clutter up like your loop or something, then you can make functions. Like, mm, let's see. Like actually, yeah. So for example, I would say most tutorials online, most tutorials on YouTube, you can kind of like trust what they do. Although I would say they're like on average, just look at YouTube and if you see enough, like once you've done enough, and you'll get a feel for it yourself as well. Another thing is commenting, which you probably already noticed, and so I kind of want to see if there's an example. Yeah, okay, so commenting, I would say you want to add it when it might not be obvious to like you coming back later, like what the code does, or someone else. So the in Schoolic Ignite code, like I would say the comments are definitely on the heavy side because it's meant for like learning purposes. But on average, if you have like something that's like x equals x plus 1 or whatever, x plus equals 1, right? You don't want to add a comment because most people who have done like any coding will know that it increments x by 1. So like that is kind of pointless, right? Um, like with collisions, for example, if you have a bunch of, like 10 lines of code per collision, I would probably just add one comment that says like player collision. And then you don't need to be like, oh, checks for like bottom and this top or something like that. I would say that's redundant. So yeah. Oh yeah, then another, I would say most people don't at our level anyways, we don't really do this, but sometimes like if you have more than one option to like implement something like, oh, this is the reason I chose this type of collision, then you can add that stuff. And comments for like whole functions are, it depends. If your function is literally like called apply gravity, like you don't really need a function and you don't need to comment for that. But if it's like, more complex, then you might want to add, you might even want to like add comments in between. You can also add comments for like if you're especially if your code is like for other people to use, like copy and paste, and you say like, oh, here's what you should do. And yeah, make sure you don't add too many comments. Like it's supposed to help. Okay. Okay, now it's bonus topic number one. I'm gonna go zoom through this really quick. So if you want to go back and like implement it, you can do that in your breakout rooms with your mentor's help, and all the code is here. So one of the things that you may have noticed is like levels. Some of you may have like an idea, oh, here's how I might try and implement it. So like fun challenge, you can always try and do it on your own as well. But the, I guess the most straightforward way, or one of the most straightforward ways, is that you just have a level class. And so what you have, the main stuff that you would have in a level class is you generally have like your map, which is not shown here, but a lot of the games, actually it might. Yeah, so in this case, it's your platforms and your enemies. Um, Also, if you're doing like any sort of say for example, even Mario uses this. If I can zoom this out. Yeah, so you can see this. I think this is actually a level creator, and the way that it creates a level is it actually uses a CSV file, and so imagine like a spreadsheet, and if you know the spreadsheet has a 1, then you're placing a block. If it has a 2, maybe that's like a starting position of an enemy, and then maybe a 3 is like a question mark box, right? So that is like one way to make your levels. It's basically like a big spreadsheet with every single number corresponding to like a different type of tile that works for both like dungeon crawler where it's like bird's eye view and you can move in all four. And also even if you're doing like a platform, you can also use that approach. Um there is probably a I'll send the link later. But if you just want like, you know, you could even use a level class if you're just making like platforms and enemies, right? And so as you can see here, you make a list. You have a group of platforms, enemies, and so like depending on the level, right? You can have different stuff. So in this case, this is like, oops, sorry, all of your levels, and each of these is like a level object with, you know, different locations for your platforms and enemies. And then you can also have like a counter for, you know, I don't think it's necessary to go through all this because, you know, you've from the previous stuff you've done, you can kind of figure it out, come back here and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? So you'll have a change level function, maybe when you hit like the treasure chest or something, and then you can call this function and basically increment the level index by 1, and you'll have the function that's like, depending on what your level index is, like load that specific level, right? The other bonus topic is bullets. So the way that bullets are created, um, you can also if you really want to follow along, you can take this code over here. We're just gonna modify this class and change them into a bullet. It's like a fast way, but um basically first you create like a bullet class, and then how you know shoot bullets is you have like your player class, or maybe it's like an enemy that shoots bullets, is you have it create bullet objects. So like this is just the bullet code. So it's like, okay, here's our image, a rectangle, right? Starting speed is like pretty important. Like if you don't have it, your bullet's literally just gonna stay in midair and do nothing. So okay, then here's like, oh, if bullet hits enemies or whatever, kill them. Or you know, if you want, you can have it like hit platforms and destroy them. So like that's your collision code over here in your update section. Also have movements, and then uh yeah. So yeah, for example, here's an example of like functions. Like ideally you probably want a function for like collisions. So that in the update, all you have is like a couple things, and generally like you should be naming your function stuff that make it obvious like what it does so that some person who just looking can see like, and or yourself, like especially if you've ever come back to your code after like, you know, a month, you're just like, what the heck does all of this do? Like, you don't want to have that be you. So organize your code. And then the way that you actually shoot bullets is you just have another object, usually creates bullets. Oh, sorry. Okay, presentation link. Um, Usually it's on the website, but um, yeah, so you can see in the player class over here, you have a method that's create bullets. Now you have like maybe when KX is the X key is pressed, create a bullet. So whenever we create a new bullet, we give it a starting position, which is usually the position of the player. You kind of want to make sure if you have like bullets indiscriminate of target, you want to make sure like the bullet doesn't actually hurt the player the moment that it spawns. Um, Anyways, but yeah, so this is your starting position of the bullet, generally just the player's position, and then here's your speed of the bullet. So you can also make it like based on the direction that the player is facing. So maybe you have like um I can sort of demonstrate 5 times self dot facing, where self dot facing is either -1 or 1, depending on whether player's facing left or right, or maybe even top bottom. You can have that stuff as well. Then you'd have to have more code. Um, I don't remember what this is for, but it's probably like what, yeah, enemies is like probably what the bullet will damage, right? So if you put like player in here, you can have it only damage players, something like that. And then what you also have is you want to have like a list to keep track of all the bullets that the player has shot. And ideally, when they go off the screen, you want to delete them. I don't think it's showing here, but that just saves you memory. Okay. I don't even know what a curtain fire shooter is, but um, yeah, apparently you can do that. Okay, we'll go and look at what curtain fire shooter is, because I've yeah, so like imagine some game where they're just bullets flying all around. Don't worry about it. Tips and tricks, yes. Right, yeah. Probably should have covered these at the beginning of the session, or session, not so session. The semester, but you can do control, you can highlight something and control slash to comment. Oh my God, no. Highlight and control slash to comment. You can highlight and then click tab to indent your stuff. You can also do shift tab to unindent. You can also do control like oopsie. This key for indents. And then you also have this key for oopsie for dedents. Well, yeah. Um, doesn't generally you don't really need both of them, but so once in a while some applications don't support like the shift tab for some reason, then you have control left square bracket or control right square bracket. Um yeah, I've actually never tried this one, but yeah, hold the control key while you click on a function to go to like where it's created. So if you want to, you see a function being called like poop or something. That's a horrible function name, by the way. So then if you click on it, you will go to define poop. Who knows? Maybe you have like a animal simulation game. We don't know. Uh, okay. Right, this we skip it. There's supposed to be a gala, but we don't know the time yet. Imagine like sometime um like mid-April, I would guess. And it's basically a chance where you get to show off your game. I definitely recommend you coming. I don't last semester we didn't have many people from Flare show up. Not really sure why, but like even if you haven't coded a game, like literally just go and like go to look at what other people have done. It's fun. There's like a project rubric. I think we kind of covered this in last session. Uh Okay, yeah, actually it's over here. Basically be creative. Creative is like subjective, but obviously if you just copy everything from our slides and like make one change or something, that's not too creative. Um, Good design is let's just say like clean code, honestly. Clean code, efficient, clean and efficient. So you obviously you don't want to have like if you know what a for loop is, you won't want to be creating like 2,000 platforms by hands. Well, maybe if you have to specify the positions, right? Object-oriented programming almost like a guarantee unless you're used to doing like other languages. And um this like I feel like if you're down to create a more complex game, go ahead, but just make sure you have like instructions and maybe like a tutorial. That way it's just easy. Like it's just the only reason that this is here is so like, when mentors are marking, they first of all, we have instructions that helps a lot, but even if it is like there are instructions, but it's like super complex and definitely like a tutorial or something with the simple stuff. I mean most people probably won't do that, but if you like to go complex and stuff, then definitely consider like some starter tips or something so that we can just get playing right away. Um, it's also nice if you can kind of show all of the features of your game in the instructions or whatever. Assuming it's not like Minecraft level complexity. Um, and now we have okay, these are the real images, and like I said, there's a lot more stuff you can get as well, but the previous one, there was one file folder called blue hair, which we're not going to think about that previous session. Like I said, it was the wrong link. This is the real link, so you can come here. You have a bunch of random things that you can look at and use. Um, I I think I said I was gonna do this last time. Where's my bookmarks? Oh my gosh. Nope. I will put these links in. Okay, tiled is you learn about it if you want to make like the spreadsheet style game map that I mentioned. Um, the link itself is kind of useless because you actually have to learn how it works. So there's more than one way to do it. Okay. So these three, and let's see. I'll just put them into, sure, I'll just put them here. Okay. Whoopsie. Yes, and we have some game project inspiration online. But if you already have an idea, I recommend you just like go work on your thing. Don't get distracted. Okay, I put the links in the slide, the final slide of the session links, and basically we all should have the rest of the session to work. So yeah, and if you want to try the like the bullets or levels, just ask your mentor. Maybe you want to do it later, like once you're further in your game, then you can ask your mentor as well. Like same thing, just Discord them if you're not in session. Or you can even put in there's general help chat in the School Ignite. Don't be afraid to use that. So yeah.